How much?
How much you gotta spend?
Frank, this is more than a month's salary.
Out here, it is all about our hustle.
You really have to take us to the station.
Welcome back to the Oldest Profession podcast, an irreverent history of audacious whores. We are going to be talking about one of the most successful pirates ever, who also happened to be an old pro. Ching Shih was born in China in 1785. We don't know much about her early life, except that she was poor. We do know that by the age of 15, she was working in a floating brothel in Canton. A floating brothel is a brothel on a boat, which makes sense because Ching Shih spends the formative part of her career absolutely crushing it on the high seas, so it makes sense that she's comfortable on boats. In 1801, she has a chance encounter with Ching Shih, who is a multi-generational pirate captain who at the time commanded about 200 ships united under the Red Flag Fleet. Now, accounts differ on how exactly the courtship went. Some people believe that after falling in love, Ching Shih sent a pirate crew out to capture Ching Shih, but I personally prefer to think of him as a client that Ching Shih seduced and successfully negotiated a very unusual marriage contract at the time, where this young 15-year-old working prostitute from a rural background in Canton negotiated with the captain, Ching Shih, that she would marry him under the condition that she controlled half of his fleet and that they would operate as co-equal partners, running a literal pirate crew. I love that story. Now, lots and lots of Western writers have attributed this to her exceptional beauty, but as we see over and over again throughout Ching Shih's life, she's an exceptional negotiator and has a very astute strategic mind. I also want to tip my hat to 15-year-old Ching Shih for understanding her negotiating power, working at a floating brothel in Canton when she encounters this Ching Shih, right? She doesn't, this is not a rescue story. This is a story of a woman knowing her own power, knowing her own worth, and negotiating a marriage contract like an old fucking pro. She's like, it's 50-50 or nothing because I'm not going to be owned by you. Over the course of their 6-year marriage, the Red Flag Fleet grows from 200 ships to 600 ships, meaning that this power couple controls between 20 and 60,000 pirates who are all united under this Red Flag Fleet. They run blockades. They ask fishing communities for tributes if they're not willing to put up a fight. If they have the audacity to put up a fight, then they are severely punished by losing literally all of their dudes. One especially barbaric practice was that they would take dissenters, pirates that stole from them, or people that broke the rules, nail their feet to a dock, and then beat the shit out of them while they were nailed to the dock. So that's in case you were like, what was life like in 1805? It was gross. It was really weird. In 1807, Ching Shih dies in Vietnam. Now, some scholars believe that he was caught up in a rebellion there. Some people believe he was caught up in a simple typhoon. Some people think that pirates have short lives and we don't know or care how he died. But the point is, a widowed Ching Shih has a very short window of time in which to consolidate power for herself, right? Because remember, she married into this multi-generational pirate family. She doesn't have a legitimate claim to the throne in this, to the proverbial throne. But she connects with her adopted son, ends up negotiating with her in-laws, and she's already earned the respect of the men under her command and is able to rule as commander after her husband's death in 1807. She grows the pirate fleet from 600 ships to an incredible and unmatched 1,800 ships. She goes head to head with every naval power on Earth. She bests the British Navy. She bests the Portuguese Navy. She bests the Chinese Navy. At one point, she reduces the Chinese government into attacking her fleet with fishing boats because they'd already captured all of the real fighting ships. And in 1807, it takes a long ass time to build a boat that you can go to war with. She partners with the wife of one of her lieutenants, Ching Shih, who is a Western weapons expert who speaks fluent English and ends up negotiating a trade deal so that they have access to British guns. Ching Shih is not blind to the other talented women around her and is able to utilize skill sets that might have been overlooked by a male commander. Her relationship with Ching Shih, who is, by all accounts, an incredible negotiator, a fluent English speaker, a Western weapons expert, and by all accounts, just an out-and-out badass who was, by the way, notorious for her sexual exploits, opiate addiction, and badassery on the battlefield, in addition to her smarts in the negotiating room. So she was not a simple pencil pusher. She establishes a strict code of laws that not only that releases her soldiers from sort of the capricious nature of pirate crews that came before her, right? She writes down her rules, she strictly enforces them, and she creates a disciplined atmosphere among this pirate crew that enables her to rule such a large navy, frankly. One of the rules that she establishes is an 80-20 split between her ships and the pirate army that she's running, right? So whenever a ship gets treasure or loot or stuff from their nefarious pirate activities, the first thing that happens is that treasure is accounted for and written down. Now, the boat that got it is entitled to 20% of that. The remaining 80% go into a large slush fund, which is used to run the rest of the growing navy. So it's a shared wealth system. The other rule that she codifies and strictly enforces is a no rape policy that I think is pretty incredible for its time. All female captives were to be treated with respect. Any hint of sexual violation was met with instantaneous death. If a woman was raped, then her rapist was killed, even if he was a pirate under the Red Flag fleet. If there was consensual sex, then they were both killed. However, a pirate could choose to marry a captive that he found especially captivating. Obviously, it would be hypocritical for Ching Shih to forbid marriage between captivating captives. That seems like how she got her start. But that pirate had to remain faithful to her, and his new bride was welcomed into the pirate community. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. And as we see, Ching Shih has a history of elevating female pirates, including her partner, Ching Shih, who is one of her best negotiators, and of course the Western weapons expert who negotiates for all of the British guns and does a lot of her negotiating with governments. I think it's interesting that Ching Shih is not the only female commander or female leader with a background in sex work to aggressively enforce a no rape policy, but for real though. There are several empresses that have a background in brothels that are able to take this idea of sexual consent very, very seriously and are able to enforce those rules on the men that they command. Now, I know that sex workers have a lot to contribute to the Me Too movement, and I think that the story of Ching Shih and the no-rape policy that she was able to successfully enforce across 1,800 ships of pirates that literally got captives is an inspiring story, while we have CEOs saying that they can't enforce a no-rape policy at their tech companies. By 1808, the Qing government in China is trying desperately to take care of this growing pirate navy that is literally taking over their whole fucking country. They try to negotiate an alliance with Portugal and the British Empire, and both of those navies are like, nah, dude, we don't fuck with the Red Flag Fleet. They are too badass for us. Plus, they have all of your warships now. But the tide does start to turn by 1809 when the Chinese government finally starts really targeting this pirate crew. And I think that Ching Shih, as a strategic thinker and as a tactical genius, understands that she is going to be in a better negotiating position at the height of her power than after she starts to lose battles. So at the height of her command, she sends her lead negotiator, this other brilliant woman, Ching Sai, to the Qing government to try to negotiate amnesty for her pirate crew. Now, they reach an impasse. A lot of it has to do with the fact that pirates, a lot like comics, a lot like old prose, don't want to kneel for anyone. So that seemed to be a big sticking point amongst her men. And then, of course, there was the negotiating over the large war chest that had been accumulated over years of successful pirating on the high seas. So Ching Shih takes over the negotiation by walking in completely unarmed, surrounded by women and children from her pirate community, and successfully negotiates one of the most lopsided treaties in the history of the world. The Chinese government grants her and her entire pirate crew, except for like 400 especially notorious dudes, total amnesty. In fact, all of the people under her command are offered government positions with pensions if they so choose, and nobody has to kneel to the Qing dynasty except for her and her adoptive son, because this is the moment that Ching Shih chooses to dissolve the adoptive relationship with her son and instead marry him, and kneeling before the emperor is a part of the traditional marriage ceremony. So the emperor is able to be like, this pirate is kneeling for me. And she's able to go back to her men and be like, I got married. Kneeling's a part of it, which I think is a genius way to spin things. It's difficult to overstate just what a badass move this was, right? After 9 years of just pillaging one of the largest empires of its day, that empire is just like, look, bitch, if you just promise to stop, we'll give you everything you want. That's what happened. The fact that she was not just a woman, but a former prostitute, an old pro, makes this story that much more incredible. Now, her and her new son husband enjoy 9 years of apparently peaceful marriage. He dies at sea, not as a pirate, but as a lieutenant in the Chinese Navy. Ching Shih marries again, begins running a gambling joint and brothel, because time is a flat circle, and after running your own pirate crew, it's hard to settle into just like a life of ease. Retirement is for a different kind of person. There's something I love about just the visual of this retired pirate captain running a notorious gambling den and brothel, and then getting like any flack from any of her customers or clients of like, do you realize that I used to nail people to docks and beat the shit out of them? Sit your ass down. You're in debt. Like, there's something I love about just like a grandma-run gambling den and brothel where it's like, I'm sure her reputation preceded her. I'm sure everyone eating and fucking and gambling at her establishment knew just what a badass she was. But I would love for some mansplaining drunkard to like give her any shit, and for her to just, I don't know, nail his feet to a dock and beat the shit out of him in front of everyone, because that's how you run shit. The story of Ching Shih is real, a character based on this historic figure is featured in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I don't know which one. I didn't watch them. But information about this notorious old pro wasn't taken seriously by scholars until 1987, which is almost 150 years after this incredible woman's death. It's not for lack of historical records. All of these negotiations between the Chinese government and her rule books and all of the contemporary accounts of what a respected commander she was and what a genius strategic thinker she was, all of that is available in the historic record. It's just that for over 100 years, male historians were like, nah, that couldn't have possibly happened. So it took feminist scholars in 1987 to be like, I think there was like a pirate queen and she was the best ever and we've just erased her from the record and for some reason are obsessed with this weird dude Blackbeard. Thank you for listening to The Oldest Profession. Thank you to our patrons, our listeners, and our followers, and a special thank you to our brilliant producer, Justine McClellan. The best way to support the show is to become a patron, where you'll get access to my campaign diaries, audio excerpts from books written by sex workers, behind-the-scenes photos, and more. Consider following us on Twitter and Instagram at Old Pro Podcast. On Twitter, you'll get the latest on sex worker events, activism opportunities, and snarky commentary from a whore's eye view. On Instagram, you'll get tons of images of the old pros we talk about on the show, including yours truly. Please rate and review us on iTunes. It's a small thing that helps a lot. Not only do we love getting your feedback, but every time you rate and review, it helps people find us because algorithms. Another way to help people find us is to link to our website on your blog or social media. Speaking of our website, make sure to visit us at www.theoldestprofessionpodcast.com and get on our mailing list. We'll send you exclusive party invites, upcoming live shows, as well as a curated list of sex work-related content that doesn't suck, like old pro-friendly books, movies, and articles. All the growth of this podcast has been through word of mouth. Keep telling your friends. The more listeners we have, the more we can help chip away at this stubborn stigma. And thank you again for listening. This has been The Oldest Profession. They try to negotiate a deal with Portugal and the Portugal with. They try to negotiate an alliance with Portugal. Sorry, Portugal. They tried to.